Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel on human design. I am Pragya, and so far in this cosmology series, we've discussed that our universe is not born yet. It is, in a sense, still in the womb, developing so it can be born. Contrary to what the scientific community believes, the voice told Ra that the universe that we live in, that we call our own, wasn't born at Big Bang, but was conceived at Big Bang, and that it is still an entity that is being developed so it can be born with a conscious personality. Ra also revealed that before the conception of the universe at Big Bang, there was a start, that there was a neutrino string, a line of geometry, a consciousness plan. There was also the stars of the wall that is like an umbilical cord between where the universe is conceived and the outside. And there were the two in the barn. Think of them like the primordial egg and the primordial sperm. The voice revealed to Ra that the conception of our universe began with form consciousness, that physical form, in a sense, is God, and mental consciousness is its perceived. If you want to dig deeper and understand the details, please go watch the first two videos that I've made on this topic. Now, moving on with the third part of this cosmology series, the Big Bang and the initiation of consciousness. I hope you enjoy. The Big Bang is this point in geometry when two, which is your dormant cellular potential, meets Bhan, which is the seed that can make this dormant potential come alive. And again, the two was inside and the Bhan came from the outside. And the way that the Bhan found the two was that the Bhan was containing the prime magnetic monopole, which is the driver of form consciousness itself. And Big Bang was actually a consequence of these two meeting in geometry, of these two juxtaposing each other, coming together. And what this coming together actually resulted in is this massive explosion of form consciousness. And what was a result of that was an immense amount of heat. And this is where, for the scientists, the world of light came into being, the world of time, the world of relativity, the world of the space continuum, right? This is the point at which, according to the scientists, the universe was birthed. However, according to the voice, the universe was conceived. So this meeting in geometry happens, this shattering happens, an immense amount of heat is released, which results in the creation of light. And so then light is running out, exploding, and this is what led to the expansion of the universe. And it's not just that there's heat and light that is moving out in all directions, but actually it's the two aspects, the cellular aspects, that move out faster than anything else. And eventually, as they keep expanding, by the way, for billions of years, the heat starts to reduce and some cooling effect begins to happen. And this leads to the formation of proto galaxies. However, what doesn't expand or explode at the speed at which the two aspects do is this thing that Ra refers to as the bundle. This bundle remains at the core of this explosion and moves at a slower rate. However, what is on the extremities, which is mostly the two aspects, they start creating the organs and the body, the physical body of this universe. So in this bundle, there is some Bhan aspects, which eventually go on to become the personality crystals of different planets and stars. There is prime design crystal. in which is embedded the prime magnetic monopole, and there is anti-neutrino field. Ra says kind of contradictory things about the anti-neutrino field. In one place, he states that it is upon the Big Bang, the actual shattering, that the anti-neutrino field is realized into a neutrino field. However, later in the book, he says that it doesn't actually happen at Big Bang, and it happens at a later point, which now we're getting to. So this center, this core, this bundle that is moving at a slower pace at some point of time, this bundle reaches the stars of the wall. And we've discussed the stars of the wall. The stars of the wall are this edge point between the inside of where the universe is being conceived and the outside. They're also a source of connection from whatever the outside is, the consciousness that exists on the outside. So now this bundle that is moving slower as the universe keeps expanding runs into this edge. And this is the point that another shattering happens. What shatters is the prime design crystal, and as a result, the prime magnetic monopole is sent out in a cosmic spin, and it goes out at such a speed that it actually breaks apart. This is the point when Ra says that there is an actual initiation of consciousness that takes place, because this is the point where Rave personality crystals come into being. So this prime design crystal, in which was embedded the prime magnetic monopole, this becomes the source of the creation of the many personality crystals that exist, that are then incarnated into form. This is the point, in essence, in geometry, when the Ajna Center of the universe begins to be developed. This is also when anti-neutrino field that was originally contained in the two gets realized as a neutrino field. This is what, in a sense, is the localized plan or the localized program that these personality crystals or imitation personality crystals or advanced yin principles are then going to follow in order to develop the Ajna Center of the universe that can then potentially house a self-reflected consciousness. Ra says that the bundle, billions of years, guided by the monopole, one with the design in movement towards the possibility of expressing love, eventually reached its initiating place, meeting the stars of the wall. When it bangs into the star, this is what really initiates the whole life process. This is what initiates the shattering and the disembedding of the prime magnetic monopole from the prime design crystal. This is the beginning of the true form principle, not cellular that's already out there and expanding along the lines of the string, but here you have the beginning of the programming agency, the capacity through this fractured, fractalized crystal and the monopoles to begin this process of controlling and programming, in that sense, the ultimate capacity of form to be endowed with consciousness. Remember that this is the only goal, to endow form with consciousness. So, in our story of the conception and the expansion of the universe so far, we know that there was a beginning before the start. In that beginning, there was a string, which was a line of geometry and a medium of communication from what existed before this universe came into being. There were the stars of the wall, which produced a web of consciousness because they produced neutrinos. There was the two, which was the universal form principle that created the physical body, the organs of the universe. And there was the Bhan, which came from the outside, which carried the prime design crystal. And embedded in the prime design crystal was the prime magnetic monopole, which led the way and found the two. When Tugh and Bhan juxtaposed in geometry, when they met in geometry, a massive shattering happened, which led to the conception of the universe. Initially, it was the two aspects that moved out really quickly, creating the different parts of the universe. And eventually, the bundle, which consisted of the prime design crystal and the prime magnetic monopole, when this bundle, coupled with some Bhan aspects and an anti-neutrino field, reached the stars of the wall, another explosion happened. This explosion resulted in the shattering of the prime design crystal into Rave personality crystals. This, Ezra says, was the beginning of the development of the Ajna Center of the universe and the beginning of any kind of consciousness in this universe or imitation consciousness in this universe. This is when form was ready to find out if a consciousness can actually even exist in a physical form. This is the first time that form had developed enough to get to a point where it wanted to play with, experiment with, creating, manipulating form into an imitation personality and seeing if it's functioning, if it's viable, what kind of consciousness can exist here. And essentially, also, this is when the program that we talk about, the transit program, the conditioning program, the program that comes to us through the planets, the imprints that we receive, essentially, this is when all of that began. Not at this very point, but this was the point that began the process of a programming agency to be put in place and for Rave personality crystals to begin to be programmed and to begin to develop different forms that can then house these imitation personalities. Now, mind you, the forms that exist in the Ajna Center, aka us human beings, plants, animals, everything that you see around yourself, none of this existed from the get-go. Form principle learned through its patterns to develop more and more sophisticated forms, so these Rave personality crystals can start to display different kinds of consciousness, and form can learn if it can house a consciousness and the quality of consciousness that it can house, and also work on the development and the sophistication of that consciousness. This is where the gods came into being, the global orchestration directory. This is where the incarnation program came into being. This is where the development of forms that can house consciousness, that can display self-reflected consciousness, that can display awareness. This is where it all began. And in some ways, we can really say that this is where the world that you and I know began. The world that you and I can in some way relate to, or in some way experience or witness or be a part of. This is where we came alive.